sure there's no further announcements. We are very pleased today to have with us Lyle Butler, currently serving as our President and CEO of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, a position that he's held since July of 2000. Butler has also served as the Chamber President in Dodge City, Kansas, and Greeley, Colorado. Life has other Kansas and Colorado career experiences in banking and radio broadcasting prior to joining the Chamber of Commerce profession in 1990. He's a graduate of the Chamber of Commerce Management Program at the University of Colorado and graduate of the Economic Development Institute from the University of Oklahoma. He is originally from Springfield, Massachusetts. He attended college at, I was at Kansas Plus then, at Ottawa University, one of our foes, and the graduate school at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. He's been involved in state and local boards in Kansas, including Kansas Main Street, President of Kansas Chamber of Commerce, Executives, and Kansas Economic Developers Alliance. Locally in Manhattan, has served as past president of the Manhattan Rotary Club. He's also a current board member on Downtown Manhattan Incorporated for Kansas State University Institute for Commercialization. He is a 1992 graduate of Leadership Kansas and a 2002 graduate of the Flint Hills Leadership Program. He's married to Chris, a retired speech pathologist. They have four married children and 6 grandchildren. He's a good friend and he's a good neighbor. I introduce you to Lyle Butler.
I don't see Bill Muir here. Is he here? No, he's not. Well, there's a reason, I guess. I appreciate the good crowd today because I know why you all came. You want to know if we're getting a Red Lobster. For those of you that are new to the club, I come and give almost an annual presentation of what's happening in our local economy. Each year I give an update on the status of Red Lobster because when I came here in July of 2000, I think it was either the first or the second question that I got was, Lyle, if you can get a Red Lobster in Manhattan, I think the city former mayor, was going to put a statue of me instead of where the Indian is. It would have been Lyle Butler bringing Red Lobster. So far I have failed in my mission after 16 and a half years of not doing that. I thought before I have a few slides that I want to share with you, and mostly go to Q&A, because a lot of times in the community there's lots of rumors about economic development, who's coming to town, who's leaving, what's happening, and I'd like to address those if I can. But I thought, just briefly, having been here for 16 and a half years, some interesting things have happened, which relates very specifically to your Chamber of Commerce. First of all, when I came here in 2000, I was amazed when I think about this that half of my 800 chamber members did not have a website. Think about that for a minute. Most of our communication was still being done by fax machines, telephone, those kinds of things. Very little by email. And now today, all of you can think of the technology that we use and the changes that have occurred, certainly in the business world and in the chamber world. But some of my highlights since I've been here, that the chamber has been very, very, very involved with. In addition to, I did not invent the website, by the way. I'm not taking any credit for that. But since I've been here and been involved, we've had about a $250 million downtown redevelopment project. That's pretty incredible. It took almost 10 years. The city led that. The chamber was a big supporter and instrumental in doing that. The Big Red One has returned to Fort Riley. The Chamber worked very hard, along with John Armbrust and many others in this community and in this region and at the state level and at the federal level to make that happen. Air service. We now have jet service coming in and out of Manhattan, Kansas. Just last night at an event, Congressman Marshall and I were at a meeting at Kansas State University, and several people from Homeland Security flew into our airport and said, wow, what a great addition. And I can tell you that the business community in Manhattan, there are now businesses in this community that said if the jet service leaves, we leave too, because they have now come to rely on it. So it's very important. Chamber had an instrumental role in that. On the K-State campus, the Bio Research Institute, and of course NBAF, two huge things. Your chamber working with our partners, and if there's nothing else that you leave here today with, is that we have a partnership in this community, which I think puts Manhattan above others. The city, the county, the university, Fort Riley, your Manhattan Chamber, we do work together. Now, do we always agree 100%? No. But the important part is we've learned to collaborate and work together, and that's why your community gets so many things done. And I personally very much appreciate that partnership. I did not create it. It was here when I came here, but it continues, and I hope I have helped to foster that. And I probably could go on and on, but there are many companies that have come to Manhattan, that have expanded in Manhattan, that the Chamber has been directly involved with in making those things happen. So it's important for all of you to know that when I go around the country to national meetings, Manhattan is on the radar, and people are talking about this. Just over this last holiday season, having a lot of not just family, but friends from around the state into the community or joining others in the community. I specifically remember a couple of couples that I had never met that were K-State grads, live in Wichita, and they said, Lyle, if you create a job for me in Wichita, Kansas, we will move there, because we love Manhattan. We love Kansas State University. So there's a lot of opportunity for us, and I'm very positive and optimistic that Manhattan is going to continue to be a real leader. So, now I want to go through a couple slides. And let's see if I get this right. All right, we got to start with this. Ned Seaton helped me a few weeks ago. Those of you that were here, he went through his top 10 news stories of the year, and one of those happened to be the mascot, and he talked about maybe we ought to get a new mascot. So, there you have it, Manhattan Red Lobsters. That's not my joke, that's Ned, but we found it, put a banner on it, and so here we go. We're off and running with the Red Lobster. One of the things that's changed in the, I've been in chamber work now 26 years. And this slide that's on you, it was a slide that probably a few years ago would have been a similar slide when it talks about working together as a community, how to grow it, and it talks about the partners if we're going to grow a community on that slide. And workforce development, education, land use, economic development were the traditional partners. There's something new in the last few years that chambers have made a change on, and the world is changing, just like technology. People now want to live in a great community that has a wonderful quality of life. Community development has become the new buzzword in economic development around America. Millennials have helped change that dynamic. They want to live in a community that is a great quality. And so even at our own chamber, just as of the first of the year, we now started a new division. We've had a Convention and Visitors Bureau, a membership division, economic development. We just formed a community development division, again, to work with our partners to improve the quality of life in our community. So it is something new. It's a new direction. Some numbers. You can see by this chart, all of you probably won't be able to read it, but I know the city commissioners are very, very interested in sales tax and retail sales, and we've had a steady climb. And for a community of about 56,000 in the city limits, they have well over a $1 billion sales tax revenue. Retail sales is incredible. We are a true now regional shopping destination for this part of Kansas. Several people often comment, gosh, it seems like there's more cars on the road. Well, there is, and this chart shows that. Obviously, if you have more population, you have more people. And Riley County tracks vehicle registrations, and through 2016, we actually had a big jump this last year. But that is also a steady uphill trend. These are just a few things. By the way, I'm not an economist. I look to see Clyde Jones and others in the room that are more economists. A pretty interesting chart is this next one. And it talks about the annual new building permit values in our communities, beginning with 2001 through 2016. And if you look at 2010, there was a huge spike, and that was the peak of the downtown redevelopment and a lot of commercial building going on. This year, 2016, actually kind of surprised me. The light blue is residential, and the dark blue is commercial. And the light blue had a big spike. We have a new apartment complex. For those of you that haven't traveled over on Marlette and Casement, in fact, it'll be our largest apartment complex in the city, 622 units, called the Lynx, scheduled to open this summer. It's by a national company out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, that has done that construction and will open it, as I said, in the middle. But I think that I always look to what's happening in our community. People are moving here. There's projected growth both from the commercial side as well as the residential side. Again, you're not going to be able to read this chart, but there's a pretty phenomenal statistic. The numbers here come from the Kansas Department of Labor. This lists the top 16 largest cities in the state of Kansas. And what this is showing is what's happened to our number of employees in our community. Manhattan is the 8th largest populated city in the state of Kansas. But since January of 2002 through January of 2016, we rank number 2 in the state for the percentage of new jobs, net new jobs created since 2002 of January. Actual numbers of jobs were the 4th largest job generator. Remember, with the 8th largest populated city in the state, we're running way ahead of our peers, and we compete, and job growth now with the Kansas City market is who we're doing. For me, that's a pretty phenomenal number when we look over the last several years of why and how Manhattan has grown and changed. Also, Colin Noble's in the room, but the annual visitors to Manhattan have also continued to grow. And I think that attests to a lot of things that are happening at Kansas State University. The construction that's gone on throughout our community is something that is, a lot of people around the state and around the country say there's just lots of good things that continue to happen in our community. I talked about this. This was another slide that comes from some folks that are talking about places people pick will be cities ahead of the curve, and they'll be hubs of innovation. We're focusing a lot on entrepreneurship at Kansas State University and in this community. When you look around Manhattan, and I get an opportunity to do that a lot, and you start naming lots of companies, there are lots of people in this community that started their businesses right here in Manhattan and have grown it. And a lot of you could go around the room. You could talk about the Jones Brothers and Manco Windows. You can talk about Steel and Pipe. You can talk about Civics Plus. There are lots and lots of companies that started here. Some of them went to K-State, and some of them started a business here, and they've grown them into highly successful businesses. Communities that are growing and will lead the nation forward in job growth and economic development are communities that have universities. And we're very fortunate to have a great university in this community, and it's a real great asset that we have. Quickly, I'm going to go through a couple of slides here. K-State has moved into, and the Chamber and our economic development efforts are working hand in hand along with the city as we focus on our global food systems and the strengths that Kansas State has in agriculture, our vet schools. We are real leaders, and we can become better. And this slide just simply shows some of the things I already mentioned. The Kansas Department of Agriculture is here now, the BRI, NBAF under construction, USDA, a whole host of activities which is focusing and clustering us to become a world leader in agriculture, something that we're working on. NBAF just had a very brief report this morning, and they're talking about, or last night actually, NBAF, the good news is running ahead of schedule. Usually you get big, huge contracts, and they're running behind schedule, but they've been very fortunate with good weather to be able to move things forward. This is a complicated slide. Don't expect you to read it. Economic development. This shows the partnerships that we have to have to create a great ecosystem for job growth. We work with all of these people. We have to have the public sector, we have to have the private sector, we have to have our federal government. All of these things talk about, and the little tiny logos are the many different kinds of companies and businesses that have come to our community, that we've worked with our community on, and that's the reason you see more automobiles, why you have more jobs in your community, is because there's been a real partnership effort to make economic development go and grow. Something brand new that the Chamber has taken a leadership role on, and working with the City of Manhattan and with Riley County and Potawatomi County Economic Development Corporation, is we're going to develop a community vision for Manhattan. We have not had one. I give a lot of credit to Dr. Schultz, who developed a vision for Kansas State University for becoming a top 25 research university by the year 2025. That's a vision for the university. Faculty, staff, students, community had a lot of input into that. Manhattan has not had a true community vision of who it wants to be and where do we want to grow and how do we put our resources in. So we have embarked on hiring a company called Market Street Services out of Atlanta. Market Street is a 30-year-old company. They are the company that got Austin, Texas off the ground. And in fact, 30 plus years ago, the Builders Association of Austin, Texas hired this firm to come in and help them develop a vision for their community. And many of you know how successful Austin is today. It's a community young people want to go to. It's a community that is top in the computer science world, and they found their niche and they found their strengths, and they have developed it. The company that we're working with has worked in 165 communities across the United States to help them successfully develop a vision for where they want to go. So this is part of what is going to happen in 2017, something that is going to help us focus. We're going to take into all those studies and research that the university's done to get to their 2025 vision, the city, the county, Fort Riley, and work with the community to develop it. Community and economic development is a partnership, as I've said. We're very fortunate here. This chart just simply shows that it's a team sport. If we're going to grow, if we're going to develop, we have to have everybody at the table. And this chart just talks about, as we move forward this year, the people that are going to be at the table, the organizations to move Manhattan, continue to move Manhattan forward. So what you'll see happening in the next few weeks is there's going to be a steering committee formed of about 25 to 30 members, a cross-section of this community, to help us start on this vision, which will be about a 9-month process. We're going to gather a lot of data. We're going to do focus groups. There's going to be a website. It's going to be a very public opportunity for people to put in their input as to where and what they want to see Manhattan. In fact, we're reaching out to elementary age school students and asking them, and we're going to be showing that in video at our annual meeting coming up on February 19th. We've asked elementary students, what do you think Manhattan's going to be like when you grow up? We all may learn something from elementary school kids. I'm anxious to see what that's about. Manhattan continues to get lots of accolades. These aren't things that we pay for. These are magazines and organizations that step forward. Manhattan has been consistently the last several years in the top 30 best small places for business and careers by Forbes. We've been in some pretty good company with those ratings. We have just been, several magazines have talked about that we're the best college town in America. And I think that also helps us market our community. How all these things happen is because people like you in this room and others in this community have collaborated to work together to make Manhattan a great place. So I'm going to end there. A couple of things I want to say, because I always get questions other than Red Lobster. But people, I'm going to give a plug to my good friends, Corey at K-Man, who once a month have me on In Focus, and I have people tell me that they pull over to the side of the road, they get their pen out, because they want to hear what's new, or who's moving where, or what's happening. I always have about 4 pages of businesses that are expanding in our community, businesses that are relocating because they want to get a better location, or they've been renting and they want to build their own building, and new businesses come to town. And I've been doing this probably for about 10 years. And every month I go in, we still have about 4 pages of things going on, of companies expanding, businesses making decisions to make Manhattan home. And it's just, to me, it's exciting. It's been a real privilege and a real honor to be president and CEO of the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. And in fact, this afternoon, I'll pull in a plug, is the airport, your airport, our airport, is having an open house. The second phase of the terminal is now open, and some of you have flown through there and used it. So others of you that haven't been out there, we're having an open house this afternoon from 1 to 5. There's an official ribbon cutting with some speakers and announcements that are occurring this afternoon, and it is very impressive. It's a great front door to this community, because I remember not too long ago when we had the old terminal and we didn't have the jet bridges, so you were out in the wind and rain and snow and all that. I experienced it firsthand, and the thing that I remember is just before we started construction of the first phase of that terminal, I was on an airplane coming back into Manhattan, and there was a couple of people sitting in front of me. I don't know if they were business or whatever, and we landed, and the person, the flight attendant said, well, we'll be going down the stairways and walking into the terminal. And I remember these 2 people saying, what kind of a rinky-dink community have we come to? And that's always, your airport is one of your great first impressions for a lot of people that come to this community. So if you can join us this afternoon, come out there and see what your airport terminal is. Our congressman is going to be there, Congressman Marshall. We appreciate him being here. We got meetings up at K-State this morning. Again, a collaborative effort where the city manager and I and your congressman, we're all talking about biodefense and the importance. They're holding some hearings right here at Kansas State University, again showing a world leader of what we have here in our community. So I'm going to end there. What rumors and wild things do you want to hear about in Manhattan? Because I'm interested too. I always enjoy the phone calls that come into K-Man because we get some good ones. So if nothing else, you can listen. Yes, sir.
In terms of community development and quality of life, has the chamber specifically identified anything that you want to work to improve yet, or is it just still in like initial planning?
It's initial planning phases, but I will tell you that on a national basis, and then the chamber instituted a couple of years ago to go do some inner city visits. So we go look at cities that are maybe a little ahead of us, that have some things going. We've been to Columbia, Missouri. We were in Fayetteville, Arkansas this year, and we're going to go to Ames, and on a roundabout way, there's a couple of things in Omaha we want to look at. But the things that we have learned in the quality of life and are being implemented here, your city commission is working on that, is having a closer relationship. And this seems obvious, but Columbia was a great example that we learned from, and I think you were mayor when we went there. Mayor McCullough went with us when we went there, but the school district and the Parks Department were working very closely together on, instead of each entity going out and buying property for their own facilities, of putting facilities on the same pieces of land and really working together. And that's the kind of thing that saves taxpayers money, and the school district gets a benefit, and the citizens get a benefit out of it. But recreation facilities, walking paths, good local restaurants, coffee shops, those kinds of things that in our planning and how we do things, yes, we still need some of the national and regional chains in our marketplace, but there's a lot of quality of life, and the new term is actually quality of place. It's your place, so how do we improve the quality here in that? So we're learning things. This company that we've hired, that's a big focus of their effort, will be to talk about our strengths and weaknesses of where we need to look at improving our quality of place.
Thank you.
So we can answer that later.
Are there any discussions about any other air service to other cities around besides the two that we have now?
Good question. This morning at our chamber program, Good Morning Manhattan, Jesse Romo, who's the airport director, spoke to that very specifically. And I think one of the things is the more we use our local airport, the more airlines will look at our community. And we are a good partner with American. We have been a good partner. They want to do some expansion. There may be other airlines that want to. There's nothing imminent. But I think it depends upon how we all use that airport. We all realize, including Jesse, and he said it this morning, is that some of the hindrances which we don't have control over is what's the price of the flights going out of Manhattan. And in small markets like this, we look at Columbia, Missouri, that has American Airlines going to Chicago and to Dallas like we do, and our rates are comparable to them. So going into smaller markets, you're not going to get the competitiveness. Some of it is because you just don't have the airlines. But the more we can go out to airlines and say, hey, the numbers are increasing. We kind of plateaued at 63,000. We backed off a little bit to 60,000 this year. If we can get back up a little bit, then I think the opportunities are there. We certainly now have the physical capabilities to do that. I saw somebody else's hand.
Lyle, thank you. We're blessed to have you, and we all, I'm sure in this room, think
been such a great credit to helping us grow, and not understated what you and your team have accomplished. But, along that line, since we don't have Red Lobster coming, because you would have said that at the beginning, what about the perimeter transportation? Has that been discussed? And then is there anything new on indoor recreation or the I-70 Welcome Center?
Indoor recreation, I'd have to turn to our two city commissioners. I don't know whether our city manager's coming in, but just briefly on that, there is a very active study that the city commission is very focused on improving our recreation facilities. There's planning going on. Bruce McMillan's the lead architect on that right now, so that's moving ahead. And I think you as voters and individuals in this community, I look to our city commissioners, are going to have some choices to look at, but they're very focused on that. The Welcome Center that we wanted to do at I-70 and 177, the chamber purchased some property there with the idea of doing a welcome center there. As all of you know, there's no water at that site. When we purchased that piece of land at that site, was back a number of years ago, when the federal government and the state government had grant money, and we could have applied and did some studies and we're ready to go, and then the rest is sort of history. And so at the moment, there's no grant money. We need about, if anybody wants to write a check for $1 million, we can get the water to that site. We will start construction. We actually have a partner, K-State, a grad that owns some business, other business ventures, wants to build the facility, but can't make it work if he has to go out and get $1 million. So we're still working on it, but we're hopeful maybe. The new administration that's just come into Washington talks about they want to put $1 trillion into infrastructure. I'm going to be right there as best I can, first in line if that occurs. I think there's a question over here about. Got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, Lyle, thank you very much. The quality of life issue, our food, nutrition, healthy lifestyles, hiking trails, so forth, is that a part of this discussion?
Yes, it is. And we need to give credit to the millennials because they've really started it. There's studies out there. There's some books I can give you because I've read this, and when I go to my national conferences, it kind of gets back to your question is, and I can say this, I'm a baby boomer. So you a baby boomer? Dale, you're above baby. I can say that, he's my neighbor. Baby boomers, and I fit this category to a T. Remember, I'm Springfield, Massachusetts. Baby boomers statistically said that they didn't, not that quality of life wasn't part of it, but it was where's the job, that's where I'm going to go get the job. We didn't sit down and say, gosh, do they have a rec facility for my kids or my family, or do they have great schools or not? Today, the millennial, when they graduate from K-State, they graduate from our high schools, they graduate, what they say is, I've decided I want to go live in Florida, and then I'll worry about getting a job down there. That's where I'm going to target, so I want to be an engineer, I'm going to live in Florida, or I'm going to live in a particular community. And the statistics are all there to show this, and that's just a changing environment. Now, the good news for baby boomers, just as Dale and I, we like to walk. And so now walking trails and those things have becoming more important to baby boomers. So we have a campaign called Retire to the Flint Hills that we started under Steve Shields back many years ago. And that program, anecdotally, has been successful. But baby boomers are now beginning to ask for the same kinds of things that the millennials are asking for, too. One more question.
I hate to interject a negative note, but the State Chamber of Commerce, I understand, has been getting into the past few years, partisan political issues that some of us think are not part of their charter. What is your take on this?
Well, probably the best answer I can give you is that our chamber board of directors dropped their membership 3 years ago in the state chamber because of what you said. And I would have to say that I've been, on a personal level, this is my opinion only, not necessarily the board of directors of the chamber, but working in chamber work for 26 years, the state chamber used to be a huge advocate of higher ed, because that was our future workforce and public education. And then they just changed their focus on, not that they're against it, but it just became a tax issue. And that I think that many of our board members on our chamber didn't like the direction. I would simply tell you that there used to be about 25 chambers across the state that were members of the state chamber. Now it's less than 5. So that ought to give you the comment. And the other thing is that there, which I'm very proud of, is about 21 chambers ranging from Colby, Kansas, Liberal, Hutchinson, Salina, Topeka, Lawrence, the Greater Kansas City Chamber formed a coalition, and we now take separate stands from the state chamber on issues that we feel are important.